Asian American activism really means moving beyond simply just community service or picking up trash or painting walls. I think that true Asian American activism is a real effort to meet the needs of the community. And there are a lot of different ways to do that, whether it is being a supporter of a different organization, or serving on their board, or volunteering with some of their core activities. And we're really proud to say that we work closely with Project by Project, and I think that Project by Project has been one of the core key partners for Asian American groups in New York City to be able to tap in and to work with young professionals who really want to be a part of the community and want to advance activism with the community.
I think of Asians getting the short end of the stick, and the activists have been able to help us get fairness and equality. So I think that's what matters the most. And because of that, we're finally getting a little bit more of our fair share.
I think heritage and remembering our roots as Asian Americans is absolutely critical, because the reason is, as much as we would like to live in a colorblind society, we don't. And the fact is that Asian American, being Asian American, or being Korean American, Chinese American, wherever it is that you're coming from, the fact is that society does treat us like this. And I think it's important for us to embrace this identity. It is a critical part of who we are, no matter what we would like to think. And I think that giving us and learning more about our heritage and our roots really gives us a strong footing for us to deal with our identity, both as individuals and as a community moving forward.
It's so very peculiar. I mean, first of all, our heritage shows us how fabulous we've done, which is so amazing, clearly going back to building the railroads and all those kind of things that really have showed how well Asians have been able to help this country and really get incorporated within the country. So that's really part of the heritage. But the other heritage is that there's been some very dark sides as well. So, for instance, my grandmother came over and she was trafficked. So it's very interesting, because now I'm working at an agency that focuses on domestic violence, but a part of our focus is on human trafficking. Similarly, my aunt told me just recently that she, as a youngster, was raped. And again, we're now starting the first demonstration project for Asian Americans around sexual assault. So there's a continuation from the past to the present, which I think is very, very interesting, because it really tells you that there's so much that we've learned and so much that we have to learn.
My dream is really that Asian American organizations across the city are really to come together in new and different ways, but in ways that really harness the collective power of our community and of all of our different organizations to work together. I think that there's a lot that we can do to further the needs and to really be able to deal with these needs in the Asian American community. And then further on down the line, if we can then harness our abilities to work with larger constituencies, other communities of color, other marginalized communities, to achieve broader justice for these other communities. That eventually, I think, is the ultimate goal, the vision that we have here at the MinKwon Center for Community Action.
Well, for Asian American organizations, for not-for-profits, your biggest dream is always money. And one of the big problems that we have is that, for instance, for Asian Americans, even though in New York City we're 14% of the population, we get less than half of 1% of government funding and less than half of 1% of foundation funding. So anything getting closer to what we have in terms of population, that would be really amazing. Another thing that's very important is that the Chronicle of Philanthropy did a study, and they showed that Asian Americans, they showed that blacks give 8% of their disposable income towards charity. Whites and Hispanics give about 6%, but Asians only give 4%. So we really hope that we can find a way to tap Asian philanthropists, so that they will give more towards Asian American organizations.
I think they could work on thinking about working together in coalition. I think so many Asian American nonprofits are in their different community dealing with different issues, but I think that there's a lot of issues that really cut across different communities all across the city. So what I'd really like to see is Asian American organizations working very closely in concert, in coalitions, and thinking about how we can deal with the issues that our communities face and how we can really make sure we have an impact on a very deeper level.
One of the things that's very problematic is that Asian American organizations often follow mainstream. So we do very much what everybody else does. Our mental health services, for instance, basically are copies of what they do with non-Asians. What we're trying to do at the New York Asian Women's Center is to develop a model of practice that is specifically focused on Asian culture. So our emphasis is on harmony and belonging, which we think is a very culturally congruent constructs. And we hope that agencies would do more of that because they think that's very, very important.